Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Small Girls, Big God. We're going to pick up from First King chapter 3, and let's see what the Lord reveals to us today through this Bible study. I apologize ahead of time. I'm coming out of a cold, and that's why my voice sounds different today. But it's all good. We're going to get the word of God no matter what. We're not going to let this stop us. Solomon asks for wisdom. Solomon made an alliance with Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and married his daughter. He brought her to the city of David until he finished building his palace and the temple of the Lord and the wall around Jerusalem. The people, however, were still sacrificing at high places because a temple had not yet been built for the name of the Lord. Solomon showed his love for the Lord by walking according to the instructions given him by his father, David, except that he offered sacrifice and burned incense on the high place. On verse 3, something that stands out is Solomon's attitude, and it's like Solomon showed his love for the Lord by walking according to the instructions given him by his father David. So I'm wondering, does Solomon have a personal relationship with the Lord? Or is it more like he's serving the Lord Almighty because that's the Lord of his father? That he was being obedient to his earthly father, knowing that the Lord Almighty is the most omnipotent power in the world. Solomon was coming to the conclusion, knowing, hey, my father recognized the Lord Almighty as the most powerful being ever. We do see that he followed David's instructions. However, he did do something different that David not necessarily commanded him to do, because it says, except he offers sacrifices and burn incense on high places. Not sure, maybe they have other symbol. I'm not quite sure. The king went to Gibeon to offer sacrifices, for that was the most important high place. And Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on the altar. At Gibeon, the Lord appeared to Solomon during the night in a dream. God said, ask for whatever you want me to give you. Solomon answered, you have shown great kindness to your servant, my father David, because he was faithful to you and righteous and upright in heart. You have continued this great kindness to him and have given him a son to sit on his throne this very day. So definitely we could see that at this moment, I'm not saying that this is the first moment the Lord appeared to Solomon, but it's kind of very significant for Solomon because God is talking through a dream. And as believers, that's something we can take note of and take a hold of, that God speaks through us through dreams. You know, sometimes people make the mistake and say, oh, God doesn't speak to me. Do not say that. Do not say that, because that could be your hindrance on why you don't hear from God. Always know that God will speak to you through dreams, through other people. Sometimes you can ask God something very specific to show you a sign, and he will respond. So don't declare that God does not speak to you. And it's so beautiful to see that God not only shows up in Solomon's dream, but is asking him, do you have a request? So let's see what request comes up. 7. Now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in the place of my father David, but I am only a little child and do not know how to carry out my duties. Your servant is here among the people you have chosen, a great people, too numerous to count or number. So give your servant a discerning heart to govern your people and to distinguish between right and wrong. For who is able to govern this great people of yours? That's so beautiful. Look at what he's asking for. A discerning heart to govern the people, to choose between right and wrong. He's not like other people probably would ask for long life, others for wealth, or even the death of enemies. No, he was just like, can I have a discerning heart? Can I obtain like wisdom to lead? And I think that's something, as whenever you're in a position of authority, we should always seek wisdom. Being in an authoritative place does not always mean that it's easy. No, because being in an authority place, you have to be firm and know that you cannot please everybody. You have to make the best call for the group as a whole. So I am so impressed how Solomon asks just for a discerning heart to choose between right and wrong. At 10, the Lord was pleased that Solomon had asked for this. So God said to him, since you have asked for this, not for long life or wealth for yourself, nor have asked for the death of an enemy, but for discernment in administrating justice, I will do what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning heart, so that there will never have been anyone like you, nor there will ever be. So you see that? That's what I meant in 1 King 1, when I said this is known to be the wisest man, like a mere human, nothing compared to Jesus, but you know what I'm saying, like God is basically saying here, there will be no one like you ever again to have the type of wisdom that I'm blessing you with right now. 13. Moreover, I will give you what you have not asked for, both wealth and honor, so that in your lifetime you will have no equal among kings. So you see, even though he did not ask for wealth or honor, God is willing to give him that because of the position of his heart. When God told him basically, ask me for whatever you want, and he asked for wisdom. And it reminds me of Matthew 6:33, because even though Solomon is asking for wisdom, in Matthew 6:33 it says this, but seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all things will be given to you as well. It reminds me of that, because it's like you're seeking his will, his desires, and all else shall be added to you. You're not going to worry about wealth. You're not going to be worried about honor, because those are just automatic. It's like a direct deposit to your life. Oh, that got me excited. 14. And if you walk in obedience to me and keep my decrees and command, as David your father did, I will give you long life. So there's that big if. You walk in obedience to what? To the Lord's decrees and commands, as his father did David, he will be granted long life. So, okay, he got the fruit of wealth and honor, but if he wants a longer life, if he wants to live longer in this earth, he must obey the Lord. 15. Then Solomon awoke, and he realized it had been a dream. He returned to Jerusalem and stood before the ark of the Lord covenant and sacrificed burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. Then he gave a feast for all his courts. So, hey, the Lord spoke to Solomon in a dream. Does not mean he does not speak to you in a dream. By the way, quick note, if you ever have a dream and you know it's spiritual, I recommend for you to wake up and write it down, like in a little pen of paper, or even in the notes of your phone. because dreams are very revealing, and it could show you the intentions of your heart, or it could be warnings of the Lord for your life, and or preparations for something. So just saying, write them down. Part 2 of 1 King 3, a wise ruling, picking up from 16. Now 2 prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. One of them said, "Pardon me, my lord. This woman and I live in the same house, and I had a baby while she was there with me. The 3rd day after my child was born, this woman also had a baby. We were alone. There was no one in the house but the 2 of us. During the night, this woman's son died because she laid on him. So she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from my side while I, your servant, was asleep. She put him by her breast and put her dead son by my breast. The next morning, I got up to nurse my son, and he was dead. But when I looked at him closely in the morning light, I saw that it wasn't the son I had born." The other woman said, "No, the living son is my son. The dead one is yours." But the first one insisted, "No, the dead one is yours. The living one is mine." And so they argued before the king. The king said, "This one says, 'My son is alive and your son is dead,' while that one says, 'No, your son is dead and mine is alive.'" Then the king said, "Bring me a sword." So they brought a sword for the king. He then gave an order, "Cut the living child in 2. Give half to one and half to another." The woman whose son was alive was deeply moved out of love for her son and said to the king, "Please, my lord, give her the living baby. Don't kill him." But the other one said, "Neither I nor you shall have him. Cut him in 2. Then the king gave his ruling, "Give the living baby to the first woman. Do not kill him. She is the mother." When all Israel heard the verdict the king had given, they held the king in awe, that he had wisdom from God to administrate justice. Wow, that's a situation. That is definitely a situation, and definitely that was wisdom. Because, I mean, Solomon is a dude, and 2 women are coming to him and saying, "No, that's my son. No, he's my son." And honestly, how did Solomon base his judgment of knowing who the true mother was? Because first of all, the true mother immediately was moved when King Solomon said, "Bring out the sword and kill the baby." The mother was willing to sacrifice. The real mother was willing to give up her son if that meant for him to stay alive. Unlike the wannabe mother who is like, "Okay, it doesn't matter. If I can have him, you can have him either. So kill him." Wow, that's pretty wicked and evil. And I believe a mother that truly nurses their baby and wants everything, that mama bear is going to come out and be like, "You're not messing with my child." Also, in verse 22, we see the attitude of the first mother too, where it says, "But the first one insisted, 'No, the dead one is yours, the living one is mine.'" I feel like she kept insisting of saying like, "No, that's my child, that's my child." The other one was just more like, kind of like, I don't know how to describe what this other woman was like. She was like caprichosa. At the end, we can see how Solomon uses the wise and discerning heart the Lord truly gave him, because he tested these women's hearts And what better way to know people's motives? If you know their heart's desires, that's how you know what drives them. So that's a great lesson that Solomon teaches us in his wise ruling. Well, have a great night, everybody. This is a super short video, but hey, we're covering each chapter, and thank you for staying tuned with Small Girls Big God. Have a great day.